This is the Crazy Over 40s Live podcast, where every Thursday you will have a pirouette of rotating co-hosts, including myself, Caroline Brown, that will delve into topics relating to the over 40s. Throw away this notion that you're going through a midlife crisis. We're going for a crazy over 40s life. It's the time to uncover and rebirth our adolescent years filled with curiosity and all our desires. We do it right here on the Crazy Over 40s Live podcast. We look into relationships, emotional, sexual, financial wellness, entrepreneurship, providing you with an enjoyable delivery every Thursday. And don't forget to share and subscribe so you can keep updated on all the episodes as and when they become available. I hope you enjoy this episode. Over 40s. What is your body feeling like? Is it showing a little bit of wear and tear? Are you not focusing on your fitness, your nutrition, as you used to in your under 40s? Are you stepping on the scales and thinking, oh my God, I'm a lot heavier than I was? But why? Because I'm eating the same as I used to. Are you pulling away bad habits or kind of increasing your bad habits? Lifestyle changes get in the way. Yes, I know, responsibilities take over and we put our self-care aside, even though we know our body is telling us something very differently. All these lotions and potions out there, what do we get from the counter? I mean, there's so many things, it just overthrows all your thinking, and perhaps we should just go back to basics. Supporting our over 40s health the natural way, we shall be joined by David Sandstrom, who is a naturopath doctor. He's a certified nutritional counsellor and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. He's here to tell us how we can support our over 40s health the natural way. And actually, he has a lovely podcast, and the podcast is called Natural Health Matters. He's telling us that our health matters. He shall be joining us after the interlude, and I'm your host, Caroline Brown. And don't forget to share and subscribe so you can keep updated on all the episodes as and when they become available. Right, as I promised you, here is David. Hello, David.
Hello, Caroline.
Hello. I'd like to tell my audience a little bit more about the work that you do, David, which I did before the interlude, but it'd be lovely to share a little bit more about you.
Certainly. Well, I used to have a practice. I had a brick and mortar building, and I did mostly nutritional counseling. And I did quite well doing that. I really enjoyed doing it. I don't have a practice formally anymore. Right now, I'm focusing on my podcast, Natural Health Matters. But one of the mistakes I made when I was doing my health coaching in the office was I was focused almost entirely on the physical, which is the same mistake a lot of practitioners make. And I almost ignored the spiritual component and the mental emotional component to a human being. And now my focus is far more holistic, because human beings are a spirit, we have a mind, and we live in a body. And if we want to maximize our health potential, we've got to address all aspects to a human being. We can't afford to ignore any of it, especially as we get over 40, right?
Most definitely. And that brings me on to the work that you're passionate about. You just say you're a naturopath. Tell us a little bit why you think sometimes that it's important, and also the spiritual aspect of it. You talked about the over 40s, but what happens in the over 40s, do you think, why we need to be putting a lot of, I suppose, looking for not alternative, but something that can complement, our health?
Absolutely. I believe naturopathy can come alongside traditional medicine. But first, let me back up just a little bit. There's a reason why they send 20-year-old men and women now to war, because they're invincible, right? As far as
Oh
they're
God,
concerned,
tell me about it.
right? So when we're 20, 21, 22, I felt that way. Yeah, I
I
was going to
did.
live forever. I'm 59. And I now have a little more wisdom saying, I have limitations, and I'm going to have to take care of this body because it's the only one I've got. So naturopathy treats the person that has the illness, whereas traditional medicine treats the illness that has the person. And
Mm.
it's a very different approach to health and wellness. Now, I'm not against traditional medical care. There's a time and a place for that. They're great with emergencies, drugs and surgery, and great with acute conditions. That's where that style of healthcare shines. But when it comes to chronic conditions, maybe we're dealing with irritable bowel or fatigue or some skin issue or aches and pains, those kinds of things. They're far better served with a holistic approach because our bodies know how to heal. We don't have to teach our
Okay.
individual cells how to do their jobs. In naturopathy, we lean on that God-given wisdom of the body to heal itself. Excuse me.
Mm.
Our jobs as practitioners is to help our clients get the obstacles out of the way and just let the body do what it already knows how to do, and that is to heal. Quick story. So, if I were to cut my finger with a kitchen knife,
Mhm.
um, I wouldn't have to tell my body how to send clotting factors to stop the bleeding, and then later on to form skin cells to repair the laceration, and then form a scab if necessary. I wouldn't have to tell my body to send immune cells, white blood cells to fight off any infection during that process. That all happens automatically beneath the surface. And as in
Right.
naturopathy, we call that vitalism. That's the concept that the body knows how to heal itself. So that's naturopathy in a nutshell.
Oh, I think we sometimes we are led to doubt that because obviously the way historically things like that have been treated, um, pain, discomfort, and emergencies have been treated in a way that we expect Western medicine to come and sort of take over the present a solution to it. But I'm
Right.
seeing a lot more and more certain things that kind of we're living with it. We're just living with certain conditions now, and perhaps there is a different way to be looking at obviously supporting the symptoms that some of us may have. And let's talk about that, the over 40s, and what does that mean when we talk about things like menopause and we talk about men and hormones and how that can impact a man's well-being, hormonal changes.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we're all getting older, right? But what we
Yeah.
want to do is age gracefully. And
I
we
do.
do that by embracing a natural and holistic lifestyle. So,
Okay.
when it comes to the traditional model, we all do it. We have kind of a fast food mentality. We want the drive-through healthcare.
Of
Just
course.
go to the doctor, give me a pill to get me over these symptoms, and I'm on my way. But
Yeah,
the
because we
trouble
have busy
is,
lives, don't we? We have busy
eh,
lives.
we all are, right? We all
Mm,
feel that way, and it's very tempting. And of course, they're right there, ready to sell us some of their goods, if
mm,
we ask for them. But the trouble
yes.
is, you don't have a headache because you have an aspirin deficiency. We've got to go a little deeper than that and ask ourselves, well, why am I getting headaches? I didn't get these headaches 10 years ago. What's different
Okay.
now than before? And as you said, well, our hormones shift as we get older, and we have to adjust, and maybe we have a little bit less wiggle room that we had when we were 21, and we have to put this a little bit higher on our priority list, taking care of our bodies and taking care of our spirit and mind as well. And it really doesn't matter to a naturopath. It really doesn't matter what you're dealing with. The answer is embrace more of a healthy lifestyle. Again, symptom relief, great. Pills and sometimes even surgery is very useful, but it takes a little more work. It takes a little more commitment
I
to really
see.
truly embrace a whole person approach to health.
Mm. And that's what I like about the work that you do. I mean, this is a good time to mention your podcast because you do talk about a whole array of ways that we can support our well-being.
Yes.
I know you talk about getting better sleep. And tell us about that. Why is it important to have better sleep hygiene?
Well, sleep affects and it will impact just about every area of life. It's It's important for detoxification. It's important for processing our emotions. So our emotional health is dependent upon good sleep. Um, the cellular repair and rebuilding goes on during sleep. Um, all kinds of really, really important bodily processes take place. So there's almost no area of life that won't be impacted by a lack of sleep in our lives. So I recommend, the people start off with some low hanging fruit. One of the most important things we can do to get better sleep is make our rooms dark. You can
Okay.
go pick up some blackout curtains, and they're fairly inexpensive. I mean, I use Amazon, and I bought some blackout curtains for my room. I hung them in a couple of hours, and man, it's what a difference having. We're supposed to sleep when it's dark out, and we're supposed to be awake during daylight hours. It's my contention that we maximize our health potential when we align our lives more fully with God's natural design for spirit, mind, and body. And God designed our bodies to sleep when it's dark. So, having lights on, maybe it's even the little red light on your television that's off, but the red light is still there, or some type of street lights. Those can really interfere with a good night's sleep. There's a lot more things we can do. I go a lot deeper into that if you want.
If you could, how many hours sleep would one need?
Well, it varies some, but I don't buy for a minute when I talk to someone who says, "Oh, I function really well on 4 hours." I just don't buy it.
Oh, do
That might
I?
that might become they might feel normal because they've been doing it for
Right.
so long, but
Mm,
that's not normal. That's not part of our design. So I would say I would suggest my experience with my clients is at least 7 hours, maybe upwards
okay.
of 9 or 10 if you can do it, but not everybody can sleep that much. But somewhere between 7 to 9 hours is a good rule of thumb. And we've got to practice good sleep hygiene, and really that starts when you get up in the morning. We want to get some sunlight on our skin. It's very important. Our pineal gland is right up in our foreheads, and we need to get sunlight on our skin to activate our daytime wakefulness. It helps produce cortisol, which helps us wake up in the morning, and
Mm,
getting some exercise and some fresh air is part of it. And then when the sun goes down, we start to unwind as well. And you'd like to probably in an ideal world shut the electronics off a couple hours before bed. That helps, as well as not eating at least 2 hours before you retire at night. That's important as well, because when we eat, that takes a tremendous amount of energy, and especially if we're eating foods that we have a little bit of a food sensitivity with, not a full blown allergy, but we could be sensitive to certain foods, and our
yeah.
bodies struggle with those foods, especially if we're eating those near
Yeah.
bedtime. That can cause restlessness and help us
Right.
prevent us from falling asleep and staying
Mm,
asleep.
mm. Well, that leads me to talk about health and nutrition because you do talk about health and nutrition.
Yes.
Tell me more about that. And what kind of health are you thinking about? Because it's quite broad, isn't it, when we talk
Yeah.
about health?
I mean, we could
Yeah.
obviously do a full episode on this topic alone. There's a lot there.
Yeah, of
But just
course.
to hit some of the highlights, 35,000 foot view. I am not a fan of any of the fad diets. It used to be Atkins. Nowadays it's keto. And,
That's right.
the ketogenic diet, it has a lot of benefits. But I don't believe for a minute that human beings were designed to live completely carb free. you know, uh, we have a built-in uh, desire for sweets, and I think by design we should be getting our sweet cravings satisfied through fruit. Fruit is great, tastes great, looks great. There's a reason why it's so attractive to us because our bodies need those things. So there's I'm also a believer in metabolic individuality. And I think this explains why there's people that have been vegetarians, maybe Pritikin, or maybe it's the Mediterranean diet that's worked really well for them. You had a friend that did the Mediterranean diet and lost 20 pounds. And so you try it and you gain weight. There's a difference from person to person. So we've got to do a little experimenting. We've got to put our detective hat on, so to speak, and figure out what's going to work for us as
And
individuals.
how do you begin to do that?
Well, you've got to start listening to your body's signals. Our bodies are always talking to us. They tell us when we're hot. They tell us when we're cold. They tell us when we're tired or itchy or sweaty. We were pretty much aware of those kinds of things. But there's other things that really clue in as to whether or not that meal is really good for us. And there are things like this. How was my energy an hour after I ate? Ask yourself, compared to before I ate, how's my energy? Was I satisfied? Or was I standing in front of the refrigerator looking for a snack an hour later? How was my mood? Well, did I feel depressed or did I feel jittery? How did I feel at an emotional level? What was my memory like? Is my memory improved and uplifted after eating, or did it tank, or did am I doing the head bob and trying to falling asleep an hour after my meal? So when we start to tune into those questions, those body language, then we can say, all right, that meal was great for me, or it wasn't so good for me. For instance, I'm a protein type, and I do really well with beef, and of course, I seek out quality beef to be pastured, grass-fed, grass-finished animals, and I do great with that. But there's people. I remember people in my office saying, "Well, Dave, when you have a steak, you just get sleepy afterwards." I'm like, "Well, actually, personally, I don't know. I feel terrific after eating a T-bone steak." But
Oh,
that's not true for everyone. Some people can't handle that much fat and protein in a single meal. So you've got
I
to do
see.
some experimenting, which is best done with a practitioner. But you can do a lot on your own just by tuning into your body and listening to those signals.
Listening to the signals. And I know you have an episode called How to Overcome Binge Eating.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, that was a great episode. I forget the episode number, but yeah, he wrote a book
84.
called
Mm.
what was the book? It was Overcoming Binge Eating, I think is what it's called. And
Yeah,
and man, he had some great tips for us. For instance, he was over 300 pounds when he started on his own personal journey,
goodness.
and and he decided that you know what? Here's the biggest thing he learned from his experience, and he shared on that podcast episode was I'm the one in charge. It's not the weasel inside of me. He called it the pig. It's not the pig inside of me that's in charge that wants to eat the whole bag of potato chips or the whole half gallon of ice cream. That little voice inside of me is not me, and I'm the one in charge, and I'm going to be in control of that. When I hear those suggestions, I'm not going to pay attention to it because I've got a goal in mind, and that is I'm going to eat and live healthier. So, and then he said,
Mm.
you don't want to be completely extreme. If you enjoy chocolate, tell yourself, okay, I'm going to have chocolate once a week or Saturdays only, and it's going to be no more than 2 or 3 ounces. And that's my rule. So I don't have to struggle with making that decision day in and day out or hour in and hour out. Should I have that chocolate or not? No, I've made that decision ahead of time. Saturday is my day to have chocolate, and today's Tuesday, so I'm not going to have it.
Mm.
So it was a really good episode. Wish I could remember the episode number at the moment, but it was a
No,
great
no,
episode.
I do. I can see it here. It's episode, it says here episode 44. Sorry,
Yeah, there you go.
84. Yeah,
84. Yeah, 84.
by
Mhm.
Dr. Glenn Livingston.
Yep.
Um, Before I want to touch on fasting, because that's another episode. What
Yeah.
do you how what are the benefits for fasting in the over 40s? We're so busy running around. The
Yeah.
fear is that if you don't eat anything, God, you won't have any energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Our bodies make energy with water and electrolytes. We don't really use the food that we eat for energy. We use it for rebuilding. And fasting is one of the most powerful things you can do, especially, in our midlife years and older, because when we take a break from eating food, our bodies shift into a repair and rebuilding mode because our bodies are super smart. God gave us a built-in intelligence and the vitalism that we talked about earlier. And when we send food down there into our stomachs, that's an urgent task. The body has to prioritize energy to digest that food because if it doesn't, we're going to run into big problems if that food gets stuck and it doesn't move through. Right. So that's the most urgent task after we eat. Now, of course, everyone needs to eat, right? But taking a break from food and giving our bodies a rest from that constant chore of digesting food is extraordinarily healthy. And by the way, this is part of our design as well. The idea of a grocery store on every corner, that's a modern invention. For most of human history, people fasted, they did intermittent fasting out of necessity because they had to grow their food. They were living on local seasonal food, And intermittent fasting was just a way of life. This was what people did. Jesus taught, he told his disciples, when you fast. He didn't say if you fast. He said when you fast. It's a basic concept for healthy living. So when we take a break, there's something called autophagy, where our cells start to recycle themselves, and they get rid of the junk and they recycle some other material, and the cells rebuild and become healthier and stronger. That process doesn't start till our liver is completely emptied of glycogen, which is blood sugar. And that doesn't happen for about 14 hours. You have to stop eating for about 14 hours before autophagy takes place. For a lot of people, they never go 14 hours. So they're really crippling or handicapping their body's ability to heal and repair. This is a huge thing. If you wanted to do one thing with eating, I would say practice some form of time restricted eating or intermittent fasting. What I like to do is I eat my first meal of the day around 10 or 11, and I eat my last meal of the day around 4 or 5. So I'll
Okay.
do an 18-6. So I'll fast for 18 hours and I'll consume food for 6 hours. And a lot of times it's 2 meals, but I might have 3 meals in that window, but it's always in that window.
In that
And
window. Okay.
I do so much better on that. And I this is one of those things it's pretty universal. The time of day that you choose to eat, it really doesn't matter a whole lot, but compressing the window of eating will be extraordinarily beneficial to your health. And the published literature is loaded with all kinds of glowing things that happen when we do that. It's the information and the evidence is building up.
Right. Well, I can talk to you for more and more and more, more time. But yeah, we're running out of time, and we have done. For all my listeners to get more information about the work that you do, where they can follow your podcast, and we're just giving them a glimpse of some of the episodes you have, but there's far, far more on your podcast list. So tell my audience where they can get hold of you and your podcast and your social media handles as well.
Certainly. My website is davidsandstrom.com. My last name is spelled Sandstrom. And my social media handle is David Sandstrom Health. And you'll find me on just about anything that way. On Twitter, it happens to be Sandstrom Health because David Sandstrom Health was too long. And my podcast is called Natural Health Matters. So my website's probably the best way to get a hold of me, but you can find me. If you just Google David Sandstrom Health, you're going to find me.
Wonderful. And any parting words for my listeners?
I would say be encouraged. You don't have to accept the idea that if you're 45 and once you're over 40, you're over the hill. Your best years are ahead of you. Embrace a holistic lifestyle that includes nurturing your spirit, mind, and body, and you can age gracefully. And combined with the wisdom that you've gained with your life experience, your best years are ahead of you.
Well said. Thank you so much, David, for coming on the Crazy Over 49 podcast.
Thanks for having me, Caroline. I really enjoyed it.
If you want to get hold of David, as he said, you can. You shared his details. If you would like more information, Instagram, Facebook, Gmail, the crazyover45.com website, which is often dated with resources and skills to help you navigate your over 40s life. On the next episode, we shall be joined by Dr. Bridget Williams. She's an established board-certified family physician and author and CEO of Green Harvest Health, medical cannabis and integrative clinics all over Ohio. She's a certified life and cannabis coaching expert. She's here to talk about the health benefits of cannabis and the myths and truths. Wouldn't you like to know? She's the author, as I said before, and the book is called Courage in Cannabis, which is available on Amazon. Right, you can get hold of Dr. Bridget Williams and all the information of the upcoming episode, as I said, on Instagram, Facebook, Gmail. Don't forget to share and subscribe to keep updated on all the episodes as and when they become available. And I'm your host, Caroline Brown.